Those of you who know us know the excitement that we have at Reach Returns over this monthly educational CD product that today is the first that we're producing. Excited is really an understatement in that this allows us to stay in touch with you with quality educational material covering topics that truly in this sport are endless. There are those of you who understand that continued, never-ending education is essential to the growth of any business over time. You have placed value in that. You recognize that. We are going to spend ourselves in that cause, giving you the very best of what we know every month consistently. We appreciate the fact that you have put your faith in us to produce an excellent product. At Reach Returns, we are committed, as you know, to the truth that given the right mindset, given the right motivation, and given the right fluent understanding of the tools of acquisition and finance, that very ordinary people like myself can live and do very extraordinary things, live very extraordinary lives. This is perhaps the most exciting thing that we have done at Reach Returns in a lot of levels, because it's going to allow me the opportunity to keep in touch with you on a monthly basis. As always, with everything we do, be it our seminars, our Power Players groups, any of the educational things that we're about at Reach Returns, we appreciate your thoughts, we appreciate your comments, and as always, you can reach us at reachreturns.com. The format for these monthly CDs is going to follow a very similar outline every month. I want you to become familiar with this and expect it. Here's the coming attractions, not only of this one being the first, but every one to come. We're going to cultivate the mind right off the bat in these CDs. It's not enough to have the nuts and bolts of acquisition and finance and understand the toolbox. The mindset, the glasses that we look through, the internal motivations that everybody needs to put these tools in motion are equally, if not more, important than a fluent understanding of the tools. Therefore, we're going to start every one of these CDs with a philosophical vignette that then is going to segue into a business tip that you will be able to use on a monthly basis in your business. The philosophy will segue into the tip. From there, we're going to go to actual case studies on the topic at hand. Today's topic is going to be on the and or assigns clause in the purchase and sale agreement. But every month, you're going to get case studies, actual case studies, where that particular topic is highlighted and dissected so that you understand why and where and how of every one of these topics that we're going to attack. So with that in mind, let's get into today's topic. The piece of philosophy that I want to start this CD with is a wonderful piece of verse by Kipling. It simply says, in the end of a letter actually to his son, he presses his son to fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds of distance run. I would like to reflect for a moment on this choice of words, this unforgiving minute. There are thousands of things that can fill our time. We live in a very, very busy world. But one thing is for sure, that when the minute is gone, the minute is gone. If you lose a little bit of money, you can go make more money. If you lose time, it's gone. It'll never come back. There isn't a successful person that I know that doesn't take this concept of time very seriously. Not only in what you choose to do with your time, but what you choose not to do with your time. This minute is a minute, any way you cut it. And we are really trying to focus on the things that you can fill your day with that are proactive in the direction of your dreams, that are moving you toward the goals that you've set for yourself. But that unforgiving minute needs to disturb you a bit. It needs to challenge your wasted time. I see people that are less productive than they could be because they're just asleep at the wheel. Your car, you should be commended, has now become a mobile university. You're using the time as you drive to educate yourself. You're one of a very few % of all people who take education that seriously. But beyond just the educational piece, the awareness around this minute is so critical. Remember that when we're with sellers, this is showtime. We need to be on, we need to be aware, we need to be focused. In our business, we need to be on, aware, and focused. I know this sounds to some of you just extremely intense and almost hyper. That's really not it. It's just that your actions are by choice. That you're not just sitting there like a vacuum of whatever comes your way, but you are choosing what to do with your time. If you're going to sit down, relax by a fire and rest, that's a choice. Recharge is a choice. Vacation is a choice. This unforgiving minute touches on the idea of being where you are, being present, being aware of that moment. So I would like to move from there into our business tip, which really ties right into the idea of the unforgiving minute. I find people caught up in the analysis of real estate, having to have everything technically in order before they put their lives in motion. I'm going to suggest that this minute is passing you by while you're analyzing everything in depth. People learn by doing. A car parked cannot be steered. You've got to have the thing in motion for direction to take course. And so I really want this unforgiving minute to be an education in motion. In motion. The analysis paralysis, you've all heard this, where people are out there and doing nothing but analyzing the possibilities, but never put the possibilities in motion. And so let's not worry at this moment whether you have your LLC or your land trust or your this or your that all set up. How about we own a piece of real estate first and have something that we actually stand to lose? Then we'll worry about protecting it. Let's think first things first. Let's also not get concerned about the idea that we have to know everything about everything before we can move forward. That's what our team is for. I'm not going to weigh myself down in intimate understanding of tax law. That's what my accountant is for. I'm not going to spend 8 years in college getting a law degree because I want to be sure that my contracts are absolutely perfectly correct to the detail. That's what my attorney review is for. Those become excuses that take people away from action. And I would like this unforgiving minute to energize you to action. That you make a list in the morning. What do I want to get done today? And that list is achieved. And equally as important of what you do is what you choose not to do. Don't let people waste your time. Don't let people suck from you. You have got so much time in the day. It's the great equalizer. You and I get up in the morning. We've got 24 hours. That's it. It's an even race, minute one. The line is there. Go. I'm going to get ahead of most people by what I don't do as much as by what I do. Philosophy, business tip. I'm going to start with a very, very basic way to make cash money in the real estate business. Now, you all know, if you've seen me, heard me, that I believe in holding real estate long term. This is how we produce wealth. that leveraging appreciating assets over time is how we're going to create a big net worth in real estate. However, we have to start somewhere, and a lot of people are fairly cash poor when they start this adventure. I also hear that as the excuse that most people use of why they can't buy real estate. Oh, I'm going to buy real estate, but I need to get a bunch of money first. Well, how do we do that? Ironically, we do that by buying real estate. Let me explain. It's a simple clause that goes just like this. Line 1, buyer, is Greg Pinio and or assigns. Not and assigns, not or assigns, and or assigns. Now let me explain. When I am the buyer and or assigns, I can assign the rights under my purchase and sale agreement to anybody that is willing to pay me for the rights that I have secured, the contractual rights that I have secured on my purchase and sale agreement. Remember, real estate has 3 components to make a legal binding agreement. It has to be in writing, it has to be signed, and there has to be consideration given and received. Well, once you have done that on a piece of real estate, if you've written it up as the buyer and or assigns, I can assign the rights of that contract to another party for a fee. I can also partner with somebody by adding them the and assigns so that now I'm Greg Pinio and another person are the buyers. Or I can simply assign it for a straight fee where I would be the or assigns. I would be off the deal and the or would come into play, and now it is another person that has the rights that I've secured under my contract. How does this come into play very practically? Well, let's back up. It is absolutely and completely essential that you know your market and neighborhood, that you know value in your neighborhood. So let me give you an example of a deal that I did 6 weeks ago, right? It's a letter sent to a suburb of Seattle, a small area called Ballard. It's about 5 minutes north of Seattle and to the west. And the house that I found over there, by virtue of sending these people a letter saying, I'm interested in buying your house. They responded. I met with these people. I went to their house. I began discussing the possibilities with them. Very, very important in any real estate transaction to get face-to-face with the seller, because it's there that all of their direction and all of their clues are going to be handed to you as far as where they're going, what they want to achieve, what their time frame is, what they perceive their home to be worth, but more than that, what they're trying to solve by selling this house. Well, as this deal turned out, they had an offer on the table, literally on the coffee table, for $355,000 for this house. An offer sent to them in the mail. They had only talked to this particular buyer on the phone. He sent the offer. It was contingent upon an inspection of the property and contingent upon financing. Well, $355,000 was actually a real good price for this house. And I sat with these people, but in that session discovered that what they were really trying to achieve was to get to Hawaii as quickly as possible because their daughter, who was in her early 20s, had just moved to Hawaii and they felt lonely without her. They were retired people. There was nothing holding them to Seattle. They really wanted to get to Hawaii. And they wanted to get there without any hassles or hang-ups. They also didn't like the real estate industry professionals in general. The idea of holding an open house and cutting cheese and crackers in their living room was a little more than they could stomach. And so they really wanted something clean and neat and easy and to the point, and therefore they responded to a letter I sent them. Now, I'm sure I wasn't the only letter that was sent to them. However, I was the only buyer who showed up face-to-face and sat with them in their living room and listened to them. Remember, listening is the greatest negotiating tool known to man. It's where you collect all the information. And in my collecting of information and asking questions, I felt that if I put something in front of them that was non-contingent, would get them absolutely and completely where they were wanting to go in short order, that was much more important to them than the price that somebody was willing to pay. And so that's exactly what I did. After collecting this information, and even with an offer sitting right in front of them, a very normal, solid-looking offer sitting right in front of them for $355,000, I offered them and told them the best I could do for this particular property was $300,000. It was a non-contingent offer. It was not contingent upon inspections, not contingent upon financing, not contingent upon anything. Well, let me ask you a question. How can I do that? How could you do that is the greater question. If you have no resource, you don't have $300,000 in the bank, how would you do that? Well, I set this up for a 45-day closing based on my confidence that I knew the market so well that what I had just secured had a retail value on the market for approximately $390,000. So at $300,000, I knew that in a worst-case scenario, I could assign the rights to my purchase and sale agreement to somebody, give them built-in equity and value, and make good money myself without ever having to close the transaction. And that's exactly what I did. I spent 2 hours with these sellers, meeting them, filling out the paperwork, signing it all around, Greg Pinio and or assigns. I left there, told them that there's absolutely nothing to worry about. I gave them $5,000 earnest money, non-refundable, by the way. If you don't have that, you need to have a line of credit that enables you to write at least that amount of money out so that you can, remember, signed in writing and consideration given and received. So that's an important part of the equation. I want them to take this check and put it in their bank because that secures the deal. Then I went out to my car. I got in my car. I made a phone call to a longtime investor of mine, gave him the address, said you should drive by this, that I could deliver this product to him out the door, $340,000. $40,000 would be an assignment fee, and with a $40,000 check made payable to me, I would simply sign over my rights to this purchase and sale agreement and assign it to him. He drove by the property, of course, he also knew the area very well. He recognized the same value I saw, which was that this property was, on a retail basis, $390,000 minimum. He went, this is a no-brainer. Within an hour after leaving that house, I had a $40,000 check in my hand and simply filled out an assignment clause and said, there you go. There's the closing date. Go get your financing in order. You close it. And of course, I stayed with the deal from a consulting standpoint, if you will, because my relationship with the seller needed to stay intact all through closing. I needed to keep assuring them that everything was going on as per plan. Just because I've assigned it doesn't mean I disappear. I make sure that I'm present through the end of the transaction. But the fact of the matter is, in that transaction, I have 4 hours of my time involved in that transaction. From the minute I met the sellers, an hour with my particular assignee, and an hour to just sort of babysit it through the escrow process. And I made $40,000. I can do that math in my head, can you? That's $10,000 an hour. Those people that are out there that don't know where to start, wholesaling, which is what I've just described, is a great place to start. But remember, it has to be prefaced by an absolute confident understanding of values in your marketplace. All right? Here's the risk of writing something up and or assigns. Even if you get a great deal and you write it up and/or assigns, if you cannot find somebody to assign it to for a fee, you are obligated to close that deal. So I greatly encourage everybody to have two game plans. One might be, I'm going to assign this for a fee. Two needs to be, how do I close this house if I can't find anybody to assign it to? Because the ethics of this sport, in my mind, are this. When you put your pen to a purchase and sale agreement and sign your name to something, you give a non-contingent offer with your signature, you better close it. Period. End of story. The seller doesn't care much who closes it, just so they get their money on the closing day with no problems or hassles. That needs to be your ethical calling card. So you show up. Plan A is you assign it. Plan B is you're going to have to close it. All right? So I always have two plans in motion. Even though I've got my assignment fee, even though I've collected my money, I am still concerned that that assignee closes it on time, no hassles, no headaches, because that was my promise to the seller. You'll run an incredible business if every time you sign your name to something, you perform on time, no BS, no contingencies, get it done. I'm very proud of the fact that in 30 years of buying real estate, I have never put pen to a purchase and sale agreement that hasn't closed and closed on time. I would like your business to be that solid, that the ethics are that your word means something, your signature means something. Don't take it lightly. Certainly, if you need to write contingencies in your deal, legitimate contingencies, absolutely. Contingent upon inspection, contingent upon a hazardous materials inspection. If you need to, you can write your contract up contingent upon financing, so that if you can't assign it and you cannot get a loan, well, then you can get your earnest money back. In this case, I knew that if I gave them a non-contingent deal, even though it was $55,000 less than the other offer on the table, I knew that they were going to take the sure deal over even the slight contingency, because all they really wanted to do is get out of town yesterday. I'd like to go into a second deal that actually just concluded 2 days ago on my end of the deal, but set it up with the buy happened 6 weeks ago. This is a little bit more involved. The last case study we did was all cash transaction, purely value-driven offer. And I knew that my assignment fee in that case was $40,000. I knew that I was delivering at least that much value to my assignee. People ask me all the time, well, what's fair for an assignment fee? Well, fair is what you can get, first of all. But second of all, the ethics are that I want to deliver at least as much equity to my assignee as I am collecting in a fee. So in that case, I've got a property that I believe is worth $390,000. I've got it tied up for $300,000. I collect a $40,000 assignment fee, but I'm still delivering $50,000 of equity to my assignee. That's a win-win. Seller gets what they want. I'm getting a good assignment fee, and I'm delivering value and equity to my assignee. Very important. The next deal goes like this. Again, a very proactive measure to find the property. These are not signs flapping in the wind listed by some real estate company. I am proactively going to the areas that I want to buy real estate, and I am being proactive to contact the people that own these real estate properties and asking them very boldly, would you sell your property to me? That's called a question of proposition. In this case, this gentleman responded that yes, he would be interested in talking about it. And so I went to his house, met with him, and a little negotiation sidebar. The minute I walked into his house, here is the antler rack of a 4-point mule deer on the wall of the living room. Well, being raised, in a family that hunts, immediately this becomes the topic of our discussion. And we run with that discussion for an hour talking about hunting. Why am I doing that? Well, as you've hopefully purchased our negotiating CDs, a small recap would be that is not wasted time. That is time that I'm building a relationship and rapport with this seller, all the while looking around the house for other sorts of clues that talk about what he's doing, where he's going, why he's doing it, etc. Well, what comes out of that discussion is a much bigger discussion around this gentleman's plans. Gentleman's in his mid-60s. He's a retired fisherman. He has no immediate need for a lot of cash. He does have some need for some cash. He owns this house free and clear. And so he would, if I were to give him all cash for this house, he would simply take the balance of the money and put it in the bank at 3 or 4% at best. And so in the discovery process, my mind is structuring not only price, but terms that might work out well in this transaction. Now, this is a property that's on Queen Anne Hill, which is about 3 minutes north of the downtown corridor of Seattle, in a beautiful residential neighborhood, very eclectic, very close to bistros and coffee shops and all of those sorts of things. So it's a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 location-wise. Very, very romantic street. And I knew that if I could buy this property for anywhere under $500,000, that would be an incredible deal. As it turns out, the negotiation on this particular piece ended up at $450,000. But the best part of the equation is that it ended up at $450,000 with $75,000 as down payment and $375,000 on a promissory note, 5% interest, all principal due and payable in 20 years. Payments are interest only or more at my option. Now, what I hope you see here is that I just did two things. And I need you to start thinking about real estate in this way. This is very important. That we are buying structure on dirt, and that's one thing we're buying, and we need to buy that for the right price. But equally as important is we are buying and signing up for terms. And terms often have as much, sometimes more value than the house and the dirt. Think of two things that you're doing in every transaction. Now, if we were to jump back to the first case study, there were no terms. It was all cash, period, at closing, which means that I need to get a real good price on dirt and structure. But when I'm factoring in the terms, I can actually not get quite as good a price on the dirt and the structure if I'm being compensated well for the terms that I've negotiated. Now, a home run is when you get a great price on dirt and structure and you've negotiated excellent long-term, low-interest rate owner financing. That's a home run. Okay? Well, in this case, that's exactly what happened. The house itself, dirt and structure, has a value sitting there right now of approximately $530,000. Okay? So using the formula backwards, if I've paid $450 and it's worth $530, there's $80,000 of spread there. I think I could assume that an assignment fee of somewhere around $40,000 would be very fair, because I'm getting $40,000, but I'm delivering $40,000 of equity to my assignee. Again, these are people that I want to have very happy with the transaction, because I'll use them again and again and again and again. So that on pure dirt and structure on an all-cash price for $450,000 would be a fair assignment fee. But I'm also delivering to them terms which allow them less money down, no bank qualifying. It allows them options when they go to sell the property to sell it in a number of different ways that they wouldn't have if they paid all cash for the property, plus the fact that 5% interest on $375,000, $1,562 a month is a unbelievable payment on $375,000. And so that creates additional value. Now, how much? Well, that's a little less clear than the pure structure versus total value spread, and I would kind of split the difference there roughly. This one is a bit of an arm wrestle, but I can tell you that where I came out with this particular situation is I got an additional $20,000 out of my terms value that I brought to the table. Now think about it this way. If this person has to go to the bank on a non-owner occupied basis, they're going to put approximately the same amount down. But what they're going to get right now in terms of interest rate is they're going to get an APR. Remember, you've got to factor in fees, all of the cost of their loan. Their APR is going to be closer to 8%. What I've got secured is 5%. That 3% difference represents about $10,000 a year of interest. What I've done is I have essentially collected about a year and a half worth of the interest that I'm saving them as an additional assignment fee over and above structure on dirt. The terms I'm actually selling for an additional $15,000. And so in this transaction, I got a total assignment fee of $55,000. Then they paid me back the $5,000 earnest money that I had already delivered to the seller to secure the transaction. And so I've got my $5,000 back plus a total assignment fee of $55,000. I want to talk for a minute. We've kind of gone on and on about what I call the or assigns piece. Remember, we're writing these up, Greg Pinio and or assigns. We've done two deals that have fallen under the or assigns, meaning I'm going to be off the deal and I'm bringing somebody in new and I'm being paid a fee for that. But let's talk for a minute about the and assigns piece. This allows me to partner with somebody. This allows me to bring into the equation what I don't have, and yet I still am on as owner of record along with this person that I've brought in. Now, this becomes very intriguing also when you're first starting, because you may want to be on as owner of the property, but you're lacking funds. Maybe you're lacking the ability to go get a loan. Maybe you're lacking a stellar credit report. Maybe you're lacking the ability to remodel this particular project that you're bringing on. Maybe you're lacking the ability to manage the property when it's done. Remember that what you don't have, somebody else has. If you don't have a space shuttle, well, you know what? There's one out there somewhere. And if you had enough money, you could probably rent it. This and assigns allows me to bring into the equation the pieces of the puzzle that I'm lacking. And so let's take, for an example, a situation where you have found the bird, you do know how to clean it up, you do know how to manage it, but you don't have the $30,000 you need to close it. Well, here comes your partner. This person doesn't want to manage property. They don't want to get dirty and touch scrub a dirty bathroom or kitchen. They don't want to be involved on a day-to-day basis. But they've got $30,000 in the bank at 2.5%, making them a grand total of about $700 a year in interest. Here you're going to bring them in as a partner. They're going to provide the money. You brought the deal. You're going to do the management and the remodel. When you sell the property, they're going to get half, 30%, 20%, whatever you've negotiated. The and assigns part of this equation allows you to bring in that piece, put their name on the title with you so they feel a sense of ownership and security in the deal. Maybe the loan will be easier got if they're involved, so you bring them in for that reason. You do your piece, they do theirs, you split it up in some way that you've negotiated. It could be just the opposite. It could be that you found the deal, but you don't have a clue about remodeling or management. So what you do, you bring in a contractor that owns a lot of other rental property as your partner. You've got the money handled, you've found the bird, but what you need is somebody to come in there, completely remodel this thing, and then on a day in and day out basis manage your rental property and keep it. Well, there you go. The and assigns clause allows you to bring in that additional horsepower to get the deal done and to make your gifts stay in your gift pile and to keep their gifts in their gift pile. I see people that should never have a hammer in their hands trying to swing a hammer. And I see people that are trying to manage property that don't know how to manage their own life. You've really got to do what you do best until you have learned and grown in those other areas. So initially, don't think that you know it all. None of us know it all. Be realistic about your gifts and your abilities. I can tell you this, though. The person who brings the bird to the table gets to eat. All right? That is worth something. Nothing starts without a good product being brought to the table. From there, you're in the driver's seat of negotiation. If you have truly found a bird that makes sense, you're going to do well one way or the other. You assign it for a fee. You bring in a partner, close it, clean it up, sell it. You're going to be a part of that money. Bring in a partner, clean it up, manage it. You're going to be a part of that long-term picture. It all starts with product. Remember that it's just like a coal furnace. That this slow auger pushes coal into the furnace, and out the other side of the furnace comes heat. Well, there's one sure way to get real cold, and that's to quit putting coal in the furnace. That product search never ends. Think of every way known to man, and we go through this so exhaustively in our weekend seminars and our Wisdom for Wealth Foundations for Freedom series about all possible means in motion all the time to scare up that bird. Got to be done. You've got to be on it all the time. And once you've got them, remember, and or assigns gives you all kinds of options. Every deal I have ever written, ever, is Greg Pinio, my wife, and or assigns. Now, I understand that when we're talking about case studies, I want to make sure that we set the context here that I'm in an incredible area of Seattle. I'm in a wonderful romantic environment, and I really believe that the location principle is just critical if you are considering assigning your purchase and sale agreement. Because again, you want a myriad of potential buyers for what you have. You know, you've heard it said 1,000 times by everybody that knows real estate that location is a critical component. Well, when you're hoping to assign the rights to your purchase and sale agreement, it's even more critical. So I'm going to these great locations. Now, recognize that in Seattle, right, $450,000 buys a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house in a great location. If we were in Houston, that would buy you a palatial estate on the golf course. If we were in Pebble Beach, it wouldn't buy you, an outhouse with a roof on it. And so every part of the country is different in terms of value. However, the principles of assignment are the same. I want to be able to deliver value to my assignee. I want to be able to put into my pocket a reasonable value for my effort in finding the bird and writing up the terms. And I'm wanting to make sure that everything closes as per every single detail in the purchase and sale agreement for my seller. And I'm going to stay with the transaction to the end to ensure that that happens. If you remember to do all of those things, keep the seller completely happy and follow through, make some money yourself, and make sure that you're giving value to your assignee, those assignees will become long-term clients of yours because you're handing them equity with every deal you're doing, okay? As important as having a funnel of potential sellers, potential properties to look at, it's equally as important to have a database of buyers. I see investors get so focused on their own investments out there looking for the next bird, the next great investment, that they completely forget that if they're going to assign this or fix it up and sell it, at some point they're going to need to hand this to somebody. And so we are always on the hunt for people looking to buy real estate as well as on the hunt looking for people wanting to sell real estate. Those two things are happening constantly in your business world. On that same note, we are always on the hunt for money, be it unsecured lines of credit, be it investor finance money, be it any way you can get a handle on investor-related money. You're going to need to have that conduit fully loaded all the time. These are the bullets that you use to shoot with. 30 years of doing this, I will tell you that every day of my working life, I am talking to somebody about borrowing their money. I am talking to somebody about buying their house or building, and I am talking to somebody about the potential of getting them into a great piece of real estate. Those three things are absolutely like the front row of your orchestra. This is consistently happening in your life. And very, very important in the assignment world that you have all three components working for you at the same time. I want to recap the tool of assignment. And in that recap, I want to discuss with you what happens if the seller says, so what is this and or assigns stuff all about? How come I thought you were Greg Pinio. What's the Greg Pinio and or assigns? I'd like to at least throw out a piece of my thoughts on that so that you've got an idea of what I tell sellers when they say that. First of all, I'm very upfront with them that what this allows me to do is one of two things. One, it allows me to bring on additional horsepower into the transaction to ensure that the resources of talent and finances are there to make sure that it closes on time with no messing around as per our agreement. A, it allows me to bring on resources of funds and people if I choose to. Secondly, it does allow me to hand this ball off to somebody who has greater resources, more time, and more ability to get this done. The reason I write, Mr. Seller, and or assigns is for your benefit. It allows me, if something should happen to me between now and closing, this allows me to bring on any and all resources I need to make sure that what I've said will be done. Now that's how I put it to sellers. And I've said that same basic paragraph for many, many years. And nobody has went, wow, that's a bad thing for me. Okay? What they say is that's great. So there will be no excuses, no extensions, nothing will go wrong because even if you were to, go into a coma, your estate is instructed to find somebody to close this deal and the paperwork allows them to do that. Now, from the buyer's perspective, we know that it not only allows me all of those things, which are valuable because my word and my signature means everything to me, but it also allows me the ability to collect a fee for what I've negotiated. But understand that you are still obligated to make sure that that deal closes. Your reputation is on the line. Don't jeopardize that for anything. Back to the summary of this tool, the and or assigns in the buyer's line. I want you to be real aware that in some 3 and 4 page purchase and sale agreements, there will be a clause throughout the agreement that says assignment, that this agreement may not be assigned unless otherwise agreed upon herein. Well, writing it up, the buyer and or assigns does constitute an agreement beyond that paragraph. However, if you want to be real careful, you will take that paragraph and strike it out and write in that line that this buyer is and or assigns and that all parties agree to this. Okay? We write it up and or assigns. We're absolutely and completely confident in our value, which means having studied the sold comps just to death. 3, we've got a conduit of funds coming our way so that we've got the ability to shoot when the bird flies. We have to be able to write a solid, cashable earnest money check, right? When we're getting the kind of value that I'm looking for, an earnest money on a promissory note or all of those things, you know what? That doesn't cut it. I want them to have some cash and put it in the bank. That's real important. Thirdly, I've got a conduit constantly in motion looking for people that are wanting to sell. And equally as important, I have a conduit going that I'm looking for people who are wanting to be buyers and or / assignees of mine. Okay? Be it owner-occupied assignees or be it investor assignees. You realize that everybody understands the value of owning real estate, but very few people have the time and the expertise to hunt it on a consistent basis. So as you have made a decision to be a full-time real estate investor, understand that your efforts in finding these deals are very, very valuable to people. They will pay for your efforts. Without the bird, there is no dinner, right? So you are bringing something really important to the table, and you should be compensated for it. You'll also realize that that's prefaced by the fact that I value my time. The unforgiving minute. I'm not going to be out there spending my time hunting birds and assigning all of that hard work for $500. I'm not going to pull the trigger unless a deal has some significant assignable funds associated with it, and I can deliver product to my assignee that makes them want to come back for more. Be prepared. You've got to have your forms with you. You've got to have a checkbook or a line of credit with some money in it. You've got to be ready to act quickly. Buying these kinds of property will never create significant wealth. It is very close to having a job, but it's the job that's going to get you started. Sometimes the job that's going to get you away from your job to allow you to then enter the world of real estate investing full time. That's why we're starting with this topic, because cash needs are right up there with air for most people. And so when we start solving the cash needs, then your ability to buy those hold properties increases. And that is where we create wealth in the real estate world. But right now, if we've got to do a couple turns, the 2 that I've described, one that I did 5 weeks ago and made $40,000 on, one that I did last week that I made $55,000 on, I don't have 10 hours of my time into both of those deals put together. And that's $95,000 taxable dollars. Well, I'm humble enough to tell you that I know that that takes a lot of people out of their day job and puts them into this full time. And that's what I would like for you. The more time you spend on it, the more educated you get, the more results you'll have. A couple of those deals would put you in motion to your real estate investing career. The motion that we're looking for is to eventually get you to a place where you are buying properties to hold. An interesting thing happens when you start buying real estate to hold. Obviously, the concept of leverage is there. The concept of harvesting this never-ending growth field is there. But let's go back to our topic of the day, which is assignments. Do you realize how many tenants of mine I have put into their first home? They rent from me. I know they don't want to rent from me forever, but this becomes an unending source as you own excellent buildings in excellent location. It becomes an unending source of clients who want to buy real estate. I did a purchase last year, another house in Ballard, and as soon as I bought it, I knew who would buy it from me, one of my tenants. I simply cleaned it up, made one phone call. I paid no commissions to anybody, selling side, listing side. Made one phone call to my tenant. They came running, wrote up the deal. 30 days later, they own a house. And of course, I've got excellent buildings, so filling their rental unit is no problem. Who do I fill them with? Another potential buyer. You see? So owning real estate long-term provides all sorts of upside benefits, but specifically for the assignment world, that buyer that you're looking for, likely he's sitting in one of my buildings right this minute. This particular deal in Ballard that I was able to put my tenant into this house, obviously this is prefaced by the fact that I know my tenants. I've been to many seminars out there all over the country that teach, don't even let the tenants know that you own the building. Keep a real distance from your tenants. Basically, lie to your tenants and tell them that you're not the owner, you're just the manager, you really have no say in the matter, and you're just kind of a go-between. Well, I adamantly disagree with that. I want my tenants to know me, and I want to know them. Remember, everything about this business, the way we're going to teach you at Reach Returns, is this is a people business. You have to love people. You have to engage with people. You have to put it out there with people. And when you do that, when you know their dreams, goals, attitudes, beliefs, objectives, well, you're able to collect from them that information, and therefore, it's like dealing with a warm market. When I'm calling people that I know who they are and what they think and what they have and what they believe, my chances of closing a deal are much higher than if I'm running some ad in the newspaper hoping for a good buyer to come along. I'm constantly in motion with people, developing relationships to be able to put them in the right slot that benefits them and benefits me as a business person. So this particular tenant, I know because when they were moving in the unit, we talked about the area and what they want to do in life. And at some point they want a home. Tell me about the home you want. What areas do you like? All of this. I know what they can afford on a rental basis. I've got an application on them. I know what kind of income stream they have. I know what kind of credit they have. I basically am just going to put this deal in front of them and show them how they can do this and lay it in front. My batting average in that is about 900%. And you think about the normal batting average when you're dealing with total strangers that you're starting from square one with, you're lucky to get 1 out of 10 into a property. I'm going to get 9 out of 10 into a property because I'm only going to people that I know this works with based on my prior understanding and knowledge of them. And the fact of the matter is, they know me. They trust me. I've been responsive to their needs. I run a tight ship at the building. I take good care of my buildings. They know that I know real estate. If I point to it and say, this is a great deal for you, and I'm going to show you how we can do this together for you, I'm the authority, and they trust me. You have to deserve that trust, by the way. And the minute you lie to your tenant, I don't care what you do after that, they're not going to trust you. So, this is a people business, and the ethics of people and relationships need to be paramount in your mind. Now, why do I, after all these years of dealing with real estate, why would I wholesale anything? Certainly I have the ability to close any transaction I sign up for, clean it up, do some work, and sell it on a retail basis. Well, this comes back to your needs and goals. And just like you have needs and goals and projects and things that you're doing, well, I have goals and projects and needs that I'm doing. Right now, very candidly, I'm in the middle of building a $3.5 million house. I don't want to have a big mortgage payment on that house. And so I'm very focused right now in this chapter of my life to do a lot of cash business. Consequently, I don't want to get bogged down in a 2 or 3 month remodel of a project and then put it out there on the retail market to hope to make a few more dollars. I'm going to produce a lot more net results for what my business needs to feed this house project by wholesaling a lot of deals and handing those deals off to my all-star long-term clients and tenants and people that are a part of my world. They're going to become winners. I'm going to get what I'm trying to do, which is to finish this house. That's really important, that everything you do is a win-win situation. I also, when I look back, I think anybody that's ever sold real estate, it's hard not to regret selling a piece of real estate. I've never regretted buying something, but boy, I'll tell you, I have looked back at times and have regretted selling something. Well, the way to make regret much easier to swallow is to hand these deals off to those long-term clients and friends and people that are a part of your inner circle, because now you've really served them. In a sense, you've kept it in the family, if you think about it that way. And so I've sold a couple of properties this last year during this house construction that I feel good about, because I've handed them over to really good investment clients and really good friends that I know will benefit from the ownership of these properties over a long haul. You see, there's the tangible parts of why we're in this business, and then isn't it so much about the intangible that really drives us? That we plan our own day, nobody tells us what to do, and that we actually have the ability to do business that makes us feel good about who we are and what we're doing. Wow, that's just as valuable to me as the dollars and cents that I make in this business. Matter of fact, actually much more valuable to me. When you've had a lot of money, it loses its value. But what never loses its value is the feeling you get about handing something to somebody that you know is going to be a great investment for them over time. We should feel very, very good that we're in an industry that we can deliver product that we would always feel good about. If you're selling something, I don't care what it is, that you wouldn't use yourself, how good can that feel? But when you're selling somebody something that not only have you purchased yourself, you would love to own yourself, well, how great is that? You've handed something really of value. The big picture, the big equation, it all adds up. But for now, we want to get you out there in motion, the unforgiving minute, using your time, your resources, getting educated, making sure you know the sold comps, understanding your market, being proactive finding a seller, proactive making sure that you're prepared and ready, and get out there and get in motion. From there, good things are going to happen. I'm already excited for next month to produce another CD for you to build on your knowledge base, hopefully build on your philosophical base. Hopefully you're feeling motivated to get out there and get things done. And at Reach Returns, we want to thank you again for the opportunity that you've given us to serve you in this way. Our appreciation, thanks again. Looking forward to next month. Bye now.
Copyright Reach Returns, all rights reserved.